Important week for Clemson football, the ACC and the college football playoff, and also a historic week for the ACC with Notre Dame, of course, competing for the ACC championship. We got Jason Priester on the line from allclemson.com on the SI platform. It's MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Please like, comment, share the videos out there on social media. Folks out there don't know that we're here talking college football every day. You can let them know. And, of course, subscribe. Hit that bell for the notifications. That way you know when we're going live. Hey, Jason, how you doing today?
I'm all right. How about yourself, man?
I'm good.
Good deal.
So for a lot of people, recruiting and National Signing Day is even more important than playing the football games. There's folks all over the place that are more into the recruiting rankings than the actual team rankings and follow this stuff night and day. So, of course, we got to jump on this. It's National Signing Day on Wednesday. First and foremost, any particular news, any players out there that are on the fence that may make a good class or a tremendous class even better?
Really, the only player still left out there for Clemson is the defensive end from California, Corey Foreman. He was on campus a couple of weeks ago, for the Pitt game. Was committed earlier in the year, backed off of that commitment, saying he needed to take some more visits. Unfortunately for him, right after that, the NCAA mandated dead period was put in place, and it's been in effect ever since. So he's really not gotten to take any of those visits, not official visits anyways. He's taken some unofficial visits to a lot of places. But right now, I think he's going to end up somewhere else. I don't think he's going to end up at Clemson, not from some of the things I've heard. I was hearing some conflicting stuff, but over the last few days, it's starting to sound more and more like he's going to stay home and end up at Southern Cal. And if it's not at Southern Cal, it won't be at Clemson, I don't think. I think he really likes the school, but I think in the end, being so far away from home, moving across the country, just a little bit too much for him.
Clemson ranked in the top 5 in the nation, depending on your service, number 1 in the ACC, and a fairly small class of about 17 to 19 commits. Of course, this is just the first of 2 National Signing Days, but what's proven out to be true, this being the 3rd year of the first signing day in December, is that about 80 to 85% of the top 300 to 500 players in the nation sign in December. So just taking us down the board in regards to the guys that stand out to you as the best players, the most intriguing players, maybe some guys under the radar that don't necessarily have the stars next to the name, but that you like. Just let us know what you like out of this class.
Yeah, I think before, all the coronavirus stuff, that this class might have been a little bit bigger, but with the dead period in place and not being able to host kids or have any contact with them, that's kind of had a big impact on the way Clemson recruits. Luckily for them, they had most of this class locked up early, which is the way they do things here in recent years. They locked these classes down early, and most of them were already committed before the dead period was put in place. But, going down and looking at the class, this is a good class. It's a really good class. I mean, obviously it's top 5, but I think the highest rated guy is the running back Will Shipley out of North Carolina. He's a 5-star guy. He's just a burner. You can use him in a lot of different ways in the passing game, out of the backfield, line him up in the slot, maybe even return punts. Kid can do it all. He's compared to Christian McCaffrey a lot. Another guy in the class is Barrett Carter, a linebacker. Another 5-star guy. He's really good out of Georgia. He's going to fit real well in the Brent Venables system. And I tell you, a guy that doesn't get a lot of play that I really like in this class is the other running back Clemson was able to sign, Phil Moffa out of Georgia. I think he's a 4-star guy, and Shipley gets all the publicity being the 5-star guy, but this Moffa kid can play, man. He can run the ball. He is tough to bring down. I don't have his stats right here in front of me from this season, but he had a really good senior season. I want to think he averaged like 9 yards a carry or something outrageous. But yeah, he had a fantastic senior season. Really, really helped his stock. If he wasn't already committed, he probably would have shot up the recruiting rankings. But I'm really high on the Moffa kid. They've also got a couple of good receivers. One of them is Bo Collins. He's a former teammate of DJ Uingalale. I still have problems saying that. Sorry.
You're gonna have to get used to that, Jason.
I know,
You've
man.
been
And
around for a little while.
as soon as I got used to spelling it, now I'm having trouble saying it all of a sudden. But he's a former teammate of DJ's, and I can't remember if he's a 4 or 5 star guy, but he's either 4 or 5 star. He's like a top 100 guy. He's going to be really good. Another receiver they signed is Dakari Collins. He's going to be really good. Another 4-star guy. But yeah, this is a really solid class. Some really good skill guys. A couple of pass rushers. They might need a year or two to develop, but have real high ceilings. But yeah, this is going to be a real solid class, despite it being a little bit on the smaller side.
I always notice, as you pointed out with the 2 running backs, that a fan base obviously gravitates to the guy that's higher ranked. But when one positional player is ranked in, let's say, number 3, and it is his position, maybe he's the 3rd rated wide receiver, and the other guy's like 12th. Believe me, maybe the number 3 guy outclasses the number 12 guy the majority of the time, but it's not like 99 times out of 100. The other guy's still looked at as the 12th best wide receiver in the country. And, within a year, he might be the guy and the other guy falls back. It's not uncommon that those rankings, you can't hold to them that closely.
That's exactly right. And that's kind of what you're talking about between Will Shipley and Phil Moffa. I think Moffa is the 9th best running back in the country according to 24/7. So we're talking about that big of a difference.
Absolutely. But as you mentioned, the publicity and the attention and the hype is like that different.
They're 2 different types of backs. Moffa's more of the big physical bruising style guy, and Shipley's more of the burner. But as far as just talent, we're talking not that big of a difference.
And people gravitate to the guy that can go 80 yards too.
Oh yeah, they gravitate right towards them 5 stars.
Jason Priester on the line from All Clemson on the SI platform for Clemson Athletics. So we know that about 15% of the games in college football have been canceled this year. We don't want to think about it, hear about it, but we do have 10 championship games played in college football this weekend. So there's a possibility 1 or 2 aren't going to be played. So we know Notre Dame, with an undefeated regular season in the ACC and a head-to-head win against Clemson, will win the championship if the game's canceled, because obviously it can't be made up because the selection committee goes to work and makes its findings revealed the next day on Sunday. All right, let's say we get them on the field, hopefully in Charlotte. Before we get to the breakdown of the game, is there a reasonable path to Clemson making the college football playoff with a loss?
I don't think so. I think 2 losses and no ACC championship. I think they're out of discussion. I mean, I don't even think it warrants a discussion, to be honest. You can't lose your 2 biggest games of the season, not win your conference, and expect to get into the playoff.
Who needs to step up in this game on the Clemson side in regards to just players that you think that are capable of giving you a little bit more, or based on the matchup against Notre Dame might be needed because the Irish are so strong at those spots?
I think in this game, the interior, the offensive line's got to play better than they did last time. Hopefully having a couple weeks off, they're a little bit fresher. Last time they played, they were on the tail end of playing 6 games in a row without a break, and they're playing a ton of snaps because Clemson doesn't have a ton of depth on the offensive line, so they're playing all the snaps. So hopefully those guys have got fresh legs on them, because they've got to play better this week than they did the first time. Clemson cannot average 1 yard per carry and expect to win this football game. I don't think they have to go out and rush for 200 yards or anything like that, but they've got to be more efficient. They've got to be able to at least establish a little bit of a running game, kind of open some other things up. And I think the guy to watch for is Trevor Lawrence. He's proven time and again that he can make plays with his legs, and I think he's going to be a big-time factor in the running game this week. He can be deceptive. He can kill you in that zone read if you're not careful.
What do you think the difference is between Uiagalelei in the running game and Trevor Lawrence? How much more of a plus is it to have Trevor back?
Oh, I think it's a big plus. What a lot of people didn't know, and I didn't even realize it at the time. I thought he was over it, but DJ was dealing with a bad shoulder that he had hurt, and I think maybe the Florida State game, not Florida State, Georgia Tech game earlier this year. He took a big shot in one of those games, or when he run over somebody or something, and he'd been dealing with a bum shoulder. So coaches they didn't want him running the ball that much, and as we saw, there was very little running by him in that football game. I think having Lawrence back makes a huge difference, especially in the running game, because you have to account for him because you know he can make plays with his legs. But also, there's nothing Notre Dame can run out there that he has not seen before. There's no coverage they're going to use to trick him. Lawrence has been there. He's done that. He's seen it all. As good as DJ is, he's still a true freshman. He's still learning. So that's another area that Lawrence gives you an advantage.
Got Jason Priester on the line from allclemson.com. It's the Clemson Athletics site on SI. Between Dabo Swinney, Ohio State, and the SEC, there are shots being fired back and forth. They're not real harsh, not real mean, but they're slight comments about how many games are being played. So Dabo, of course, and a few other areas of the country going after Ohio State in particular, not by name. They don't bring up Ohio State, but that teams should not be considered necessarily that have played 6 games to go into the college football playoff. The shot that came from Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, against the ACC was giving a week off to Notre Dame and Clemson before the ACC championship game to protect them. I thought that was a bit out of line considering their opponents and considering they both got a bye week. It wasn't like the conference was looking out for one team or the other to try to make sure that they had an advantage in the title game. But Dabo, I don't necessarily know what his incentive to talk at this point is, because his team's got to win. They make the playoff. They lose. They don't make the playoff. And so there's not going to be any kind of style points or consideration made for Clemson. It's a win and in, lose and out game for them. So there's no real comparison to be made. But any thoughts about the shots that are being fired across the country?
Well, these guys know that if they ask Dabo something, he's going to answer it, and he's going to tell them what he thinks. You know, he's not out here just making statements about that. He's being asked about it. You know, and he gives honest answers. You know, I give him credit for that. He says what's on his mind. But yeah, I thought that the stuff Greg Sankey said was kind of a cheap shot too. You know, I didn't think that the ACC was trying to protect the two teams by not making them play. I mean, I thought it was a unusual circumstance. They were not going to make Clemson go back down to Tallahassee again after already paying. I think they spent $300,000 going down there the first time, only to be turned around. They weren't going to make them turn around and go back down there, and they weren't going to make Notre Dame play with Clemson being off. So, I mean, it was really the only logical thing to do. I mean, it's just to give them both the week off. Notre Dame would have been, a 30-point favorite over Wake Forest. I mean, although, you know, upsets happen. We saw it last weekend with Florida and LSU. Greg Sankey's probably wishing he'd have given them the weekend off. But as far as the Ohio State stuff, you know, it's a difficult season, man. I get it. Playing only 6 games, I don't think they should be disqualified because they've only played 6 games. I think it should be a factor, though. You know, if they're being compared to another team, I mean, I think it definitely should be taken into consideration. Like I just said, we just saw Florida take a massive upset to LSU. Nobody thought that was going to happen. The more games you play, the more the chances go up that you're going to take an upset or even somebody get hurt. I mean, you just never know. If you're only playing 6 games, you're going to be a lot fresher. I mean, but it's hard to blame them for that, though. That wasn't their decision. That was out of their hands, above their heads. If it was up to those players and that coach staff, they'd have been playing in September with everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. Don't have a whole lot to add to that, because I think it's reasonable that you evaluate a team that's played 6 games differently. You don't eliminate them, but they have to do more work in those 6 games and show you more than a team that played 9 or 10 games. They have to be more dominant. They got to be perfect. We're going to have a team in the college football playoff, most likely that's going to have a loss. Maybe not. We might have 4 undefeated teams there. That's a possibility, but most likely we get a team in there. Or there are certainly teams out there that have the opportunity to make it with a loss, but they've played 9, 10, 11 games, not 6 games. And so you make one of those a factor as well. Makes sense to me. It's a difficult year, and we don't have no non-conference games to speak of to compare the conferences or the teams as well. Jason Priester on the line, talking Notre Dame, talking Clemson. Please join him and his coverage of Clemson football there on allclemson.com on SI. Jason, we always appreciate the conversation. You stopping by. Have a good National Signing Day. Enjoy the game Saturday.
All right, man. Appreciate it, Mark. Talk to you later. Thanks.